He is celebrating today his 25th anniversary as commissioner of the National Hockey League. Here is Gary Bettman. Well, happy 25th. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you, but doesn't that make you feel as old as it makes me feel?
Well, we're the same age, Bettman. You know that.
Yeah, I know.
I'm 2 weeks older than you, but well, yeah, it doesn't make me feel that old. Do you feel old?
You wear it well. No, I feel great.
No.
But it's funny because my 32-year-old son, who has a 2-year-old and a 7-month-old, called me this morning. He goes, "Do you realize when you started this job, I was in 3rd grade?"
Wow. Well, that puts it in context, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
So you were the
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you were the first commissioner of the National Hockey League. Before you, everybody was a president. I've never asked you this, but what was the genesis of the decision to take on the mantle of commissioner rather than become the next president?
It was part of making a statement that we were going to evolve, we were going to modernize, we were going to catch up on a number of things that the world had maybe passed us by on, and to be in a position to be more modern for our fans. We couldn't operate. I saw some articles say, well, we used to be a mom and pop operation. I wouldn't say that, but it was about moving the game forward, moving the league forward.
Was that
more symbolic than anything else?
Yeah, I understand. But was this something you wanted, or was this something the board offered you? Do you remember?
No, this was something that I told the board. Well, the board may have done it had they selected somebody else, but the fact is, during the process when they decided that I was their guy, this is something that I told them was important, and I explained to them why. And I guess that was part of the vision that I had for the league and the game that they liked.
Chris Johnston is here. Let him jump in on the conversation here.
Oh, hello, Chris.
Hey, Gary. Knowing you as I do, I can't imagine you don't strike me as someone who's looking back too often. But what does it mean to you to hit this milestone and have some attention on it, and maybe reflect a little bit yourself, just because it's been brought to your desk?
I kind of try to shy away from the attention. I know it's inevitable. What I focus on is the fact that the game is as entertaining and as exciting and as competitive as it's ever been. The league has never been stronger. We've never had more fans. Our players have never been more terrific. And so what I focus on is the best is yet to come. We're in the strongest place we've ever been, and so here's an opportunity to continue to grow this great game. That's kind of how I focus on it. I didn't go out today and have a big lunch. We're not having a party. This was a full working day. I have an event that I have to go to tonight. So, it's just another day, but I understand that it does have some symbolism. It is a milestone, and I'm happy to be here doing this.
So this game has evolved dramatically, and I'm intrigued by your perspective on this as to whether you feel this evolution, and I'm talking about on the ice, not about the economics. Is the evolution, was it created, was it deliberate, or did it just evolve? And I'm talking specifically about 10 years ago, if you and I had a conversation, I'd probably be harping at there are too many fights, there are too many goons in the NHL, guys who can't play, guys who are out there only to fight, that the fights are too many of them are staged, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That has all changed in the last few years. Do you feel a level of responsibility or credit for doing that, or did this just kind of happen?
Well, I don't think it's none of the above or it's all of the above. Nothing. It's a great question. It doesn't stand in isolation. So let me paint a context. When we had a game that was unhealthy in terms of competitiveness, we had teams that couldn't compete, and that affected the product. That's the reason that we had clutching and grabbing and hooking and holding, because when you had teams that had payrolls 4 or 5 times the payrolls of other teams, from a skill level, they couldn't compete. So having a framework that puts an emphasis on the ice, on the game itself, on teams emphasizing skill and speed and entertainment and competitive balance, that has caused the teams to say we need to do everything we can to be the most competitive. We've got to be great on D. We've got to be able to score goals. And so I think most teams came to the conclusion over time, wasn't mandated, that we need more skilled players. You can't have one-dimensional players anymore if you're going to want to have success, make the playoffs, and have a shot at winning the cup. And so I think we've created a framework. We haven't changed the rules on fighting in my 25 years. I think the only change is, if you again instigate a fight in the last 5 minutes, you wind up in bigger trouble. You get suspended for a game. But that was to keep incidents down at the end of a game, stupid incidents. Other than that, we didn't change anything other than create an environment that emphasized speed and skill.
You've also found some parity for sure, Gary, in this. We only need to look at the standings to see that. But I'm wondering, with the playoff format divisionally that has been instituted the last few years, there's the odd quirk. You had Pittsburgh and Washington, the top two teams in the Eastern Conference, meeting in the second round last year. We have the Atlantic Division this year where the top three teams are among the best in the league and the bottom five are among the worst in the league, and there's a chasm there. I mean, does that give you any concern for the way that the playoff format currently is working?
Well, the current format has been exciting, and you say parity, I say competitive balance. But yes, that's what I was talking about in response to Bob's question. The fact is, occasionally you get something that looks aberrational, and maybe last season was an aberration. Maybe we'll see an aberration this year. At some point, if you have too many aberrations, you may want to take a look at it. But it seems to be working pretty well in terms of giving real meaning to the regular season. We have teams, most of the teams are in the hunt, overwhelmingly, and we have teams that are going to make the playoffs or miss the playoffs by a point or two, which makes every regular season game even more important. You got a handful of teams who think they can coast unless they hit a real bad drought, and that seems to be happening. And then you got a handful of teams, maybe more, who every game starting now is like a playoff game in their pursuit of actually making the playoffs. So I think the system works well. The fact that Pittsburgh played Washington in the second round as opposed to the third, I don't get too hung up about that. If you're going to win the cup, you got to go through all comers anyway.
With NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman on the 25th anniversary of his taking on the position of the first commissioner of the National Hockey League. For all I know, we may be the last commissioner. He may just stay forever and ever. Amen. He'll outlast.
Only if you stay.
No, you're going to outlast me. I know that, Bettman. So I want to talk about. Yeah, for sure. I want to talk about a couple of things. I know you've been to Vegas, right? I haven't seen you there, but I assume you've been in the building. I have gone to a game in Las Vegas as well, and I was absolutely astounded by the presentation and by the atmosphere in the building. And I know this is nothing new. Everybody has been talking about it. I'm not talking about what's going on the ice, which is an extraordinary story.
I got it.
I'm talking about the energy in the building.
Yep.
When you sit there, as I did, do you wonder, okay, we need to make sure everybody comes to this building and adopts some of this? Because this is an energy that you'd like to see in every building in the National Hockey League.
Well, by the way, I was there opening night, and
that was special.
That was special in a very emotional and somber way, honoring what had happened, I believe, 8 days before with the shootings in Mandalay Bay. What has happened there has become a bonding between the team and the city faster than anybody could have anticipated.
Agreed.
Part of it started, and I remember, when Bill Foley did the ticket drive, it was all about individuals. The casinos were asked not to be involved, not because we had anything against them. We didn't want casinos buying 1,000 tickets and giving them away.
Right.
We wanted to make sure that this team had an indigenous fan base, and they sold massive number of season tickets. People were really surprised I wasn't. What people forget about Las Vegas is it's general population surrounding area and the city of 2 million people. And everybody who typically goes to Las Vegas thinks of the Strip. But there are real people that live there, and they wanted something that made them feel, either if they were natives or transplants, like this was a big city like everywhere else, and that they have the same things that other major good-sized cities in Canada and the U.S. have. And they are proud of the fact that this franchise was birthed there. I was there a year ago in November to announce the name of the team, and 5,000 people showed up just to be at ground zero of hearing the name of the team, because they wanted to be a part of everything where this franchise began. And now with the emotion that, opening night, when it represented the fact that the players who had just come to Las Vegas went into the community, went to the first responders,
Right.
went to the hospitals, met with the survivors, and I think this has something to do with their performance too. They're playing for a higher calling right now. They're about unity, they're about healing, and they're very much part of the lifeblood of this community. And that's what you're seeing from the energy in that building, in addition to the fact that they're doing a great job, Las Vegas style, of making sure that it's an entertaining experience.
So on the ice, we have spent a lot of time in complete shock and awe at what they have been able to accomplish. And look, it is to be said that the National Hockey League gave Vegas a better stir at expansion time than any other expansion, I think, in history. Gave them a better shot by limiting the protected players that the existing teams could keep away from them. Having said that, this is really extraordinary. Are you thrilled about this?
It may be the best story this year in all of sports.
It is.
There's never been an expansion like this ever, any time. Now, the game plan was, if you think back to other expansions in this or any sport, you go to a new market, there's an initial enthusiasm for 3 or 4 years, the team doesn't play well, some of the interest erodes because it's not fun to see losses all the time.
Of course.
It takes the team a decade to make the playoffs, so the fans don't even get to see and experience what our playoffs are like and how special they are. So our goal was, let's give them enough so that they could be playing meaningful games beyond Thanksgiving, either Canada or U.S. Thanksgiving. Let's give them, in this salary cap era where we pride ourselves that everybody can afford to be competitive, subject to how well the team is run, into March or April. Well, I guess we accomplished that.
No kidding.
And by the way, we changed the rules. George McPhee, Gerald Gallant have done an amazing job, but give credit to the players. They've bonded as a team. They feel they have something to prove, and it also relates back to the last question we discussed, which is, I think emotionally they're on a mission. They're playing for that city in ways that no team during the regular city typically, plays for the city. And Jared Gallant and George McPhee, I cannot say enough of how good a job they did and are doing.
Well, yeah, and I just as a quick point, I mean, I spent a fair bit of time with McPhee when I went to Vegas, and we chatted about it, and he was genuinely shocked at how well his team was playing, how well the city had responded. He just went on and on about we talked about revenues that they were generating, that the Vegas Golden Knights were the #1 logo in the National Hockey League, which isn't too shocking for a first-year team, I suppose. But
That's
just
right.
everything about it, and the way the team was performing on the ice. George, you know him, and we all saw what he did before this team was launched. He basically did deals to acquire draft choices as aggressively as he could, under the premise that there's going to be a process and it's going to take time to put this team together, and he didn't want to do it with somebody else's, for lack of a better term, cast-offs. He wanted to build a strong young team a foundation that would stand up over time. He had no idea they'd be this good this quick. By his own admission.
With all due respect to, but you know what? I think sometimes George tends to be overly modest.
Maybe.
He did it. you know what? He may not have thought it was going to be quite this good. He had a plan. They're sticking to the plan. The plan may be working faster than they had thought. And you know what? Some of our other GMs made some moves to protect players.
Of course.
And enough of them did it. And maybe in hindsight, you know, you'll look back and say, well, if everybody just stood their ground, maybe it wouldn't work quite like this. But it's okay because, great. You know what? Let's see exactly how far this runs. But it's clear, and I think it's one of the reasons the reaction and the emotion in the building is as good as it is. They have a great home ice advantage because people are really genuinely excited. It's not like they're getting used to NHL hockey. They're experiencing exciting, entertaining, winning NHL hockey, and that is fun for everybody. This has been a very good experience for the league. We knew it would be successful on and off the ice. Could I tell you I thought they would be this successful on the ice? No.
Agreed.
Gary, switching gears a little bit, I recall back to when you were doing the last round of CBA talks that there was at least a thought out there that may be the last time you'd be doing those sort of things in your role. And you know, now that you've still going strong.
That may have just been that may just be wishful thinking by some people.
That's true. That's true. I didn't hear you say it. But, you know, now that we're here in 2018 and you are still going strong, you know, with the possibility of 2020 or 2022, depending on what happens with this CBA, could you see yourself doing the next round as well?
Oh, yeah. I don't plan on going anywhere. I'm having too much fun. I'm loving the opportunity. There's nothing else I'd rather be doing. I mean, you know, maybe Bob wants to go play golf full time, and I'll meet him occasionally, but that's not anything I'm interested in. This is it's an honor to do what I do. It's a great challenge. We have great opportunities ahead of us. I think this is the greatest sport with the greatest people on and off the ice. So as long as I can give this 100%, then I want to keep doing it. If I, for whatever reason, don't feel that I can give it 100%, then I'll stop. But, you know, I'm running on all cylinders as far as I can tell.
All right, before we let you go, any update on Seattle? I know you were waiting to hear from them. Have you?
Well, I'll tell you what I told the board. They've been talking to us. They're working on the application, and they expect to get it into us in the not-too-distant future, but I don't have it yet. And what the timetable is, I can't predict because it depends on when we get the application and what it says and how much work we have to do.
The application, I'm sure most of the audience, all of the audience, is not familiar with it. Is it a complex document? Is it something that, as a general rule, does take a significant amount of time?
Yeah, it's rather fulsome. You know, but by the way, the process. You know, people kept asking us during the last expansion process, why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long? Well, the answer is quite simply the process enabled us to make a very good decision, which is what you're seeing in Las Vegas. And there's no reason, we're not in a rush. We want to do this if we're going to do an expansion into Seattle. We want to make sure we do it the right way for the right reasons and have all the ducks in a row.
And based on anything you've heard, the arena deal is still go forward?
That's what I've heard,
yeah.
And as was widely reported, the mayor of Seattle actually paid me a visit when she was in New York. And so, you know, again, we're not into the process yet, so the details on everything we have yet to be made apprised of, but that's part of the process. But from everything I know and I'm hearing, everything's on track.
Listen, we look forward to seeing you again. Next time you're up in Toronto, let us know. We'd love to have you in studio. You're always generous with your time. And once again, congratulations on 25 years, the first and who knows, maybe the last commissioner of the National Hockey League. Wow.
Well, I doubt the latter because with 100 years under our belt, and I expect at least another 100 years from this league, that isn't going to happen. But it's always great to be with you, and I appreciate your good wishes, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Gary.